Just need to get the presentation on. Let me start by saying indeed already thank you to Doug as well for the invitation. I think it's good to have us both together. I mean, the person from the bio-based, biodegradable plastics, while I'll show a case of bio-based recyclable plastics and why we went down this route instead of the biodegradable plastics. So, yeah, where's the pointer? I'm going to skip through a lot of slides, just to leave some room for discussion, but you'll have that as information once you get to download the presentation. Ecover, we're a company that makes washing, cleaning, and personal care products, and we have been doing that for 30 years. And our main goal when we started the company was indeed to replace all chemicals that were used in those products and to replace them by bio-based chemicals that were completely biodegradable. And still yet today, in a lot of cleaning products, you find chemicals which are not yet biodegradable. So for us, this biodegradability and bio-based of chemicals was really key for us and has been key all over the years since we started. And we made this kind of a product model to evaluate our products, which is looking at the complete life cycle of a product, and which indeed is, like mentioned, based on the cradle-to-cradle principle. So we look at where they are sourced from, how they are sourced, which plantation they come from, are they sustainably grown. Then we look at the usage phase, are they as effective as our competitor products, and especially, and that's the blue phase there, we look at the disposal phase. How are our products, when they end up in the water cycle, how are they degraded, and are they really degraded in all conditions, being anaerobe and aerobe conditions in water cycle. But then when it comes to our packaging, like I said, we spent these 30 years looking for the best ingredients with the best and most ready to use biodegradability of the ingredients. And when it comes to our packaging, of course, we also wanted to do an effort, because if you look at the footprint of our products, packaging can be up to half or more of the impact of our products. So also for the packaging, we needed to find a solution to improve our footprint of packaging. And then we looked at the alternatives, and of course, as cradle-to-cradle thinking was so important for us, a renewable feedstock to start from was a key, let's say, a key principle to start from. So we took that bio-based sourcing as a key starting point, and then we went to scout, let's say, for different plastics that were out there. But in the scouting, indeed, we also came with the same discussion: should we go for compostable plastics or should we go for recyclable plastics? And it has been a discussion internally, and we had lots of debate about it. But in the end, we looked at the markets we were in, and we were, of course, Ecover is present in our most important countries where we distribute is Northern Europe. So we're really quite big in Northern Europe, and then we have some smaller markets outside of that region. And if you look at Northern Europe, and you look at the recycling rates that already are there, like Belgium is our country of origin. I think Belgium is one of the champions in recycling. You saw that in one of the slides earlier. So one thing we did not want to do is mess up the existing recycling streams that were already there, and especially because what you see now, what's happening in the recycling business, and I think Mike showed a really good case, is that the sorting of plastics is getting better and better. So what we really don't want to do now is just mess up that recycling stream. And I think, again, we will talk about it maybe later in discussion, it's not because biodegradable plastic is not recyclable. It's just that indeed the facilities now for bottles are not made up yet to recycle biodegradable bottles. So I think it's a thing we need to work in parallel and in cooperation a lot with brands and recycling companies that recycle materials, and see when we can launch what material on what market. So there's a lot of questions that need to be answered when you're making a choice of material. I'm going to skip this part about bio-based. I think that's been touched upon a lot of times before in previous presentations. I just want to say in the end, we went for this green PE, which is from a company here in Brazil. We sourced that Braskem, and they also have been mentioned before in a few other presentations. It's a really interesting material, and I think Braskem pioneered with this material in making a bio-based material with exact the same properties as the existing polyethylene that was out there. So a material that could easily go within the existing recycling streams without messing up the existing recycling of PE of bottles, which was something, especially in our markets, that was happening at very high percentages. So from sugarcane, Braskem makes the ethylene, from the ethylene make the polyethylene, and in the end it's turned into a bottle. But I want to mention it again and again, this bottle is not biodegradable, it's meant to go in the recycling stream. Yeah, the footprint of the Braskem bottle, I'm not going to go to the figures, of course, but the reason why to go for bio-based is a bit like the professor already explained in a lot of detail. It's about, of course, the lowering of your carbon footprint. It's not so much about end of life, this decision. And then, yeah, why sugarcane? I think at the moment, if you don't yet have the option of using waste as a material and look at all feedstock that is out there, currently sugarcane is the most interesting feedstock to use as a biomass to make ethylene. An important element as well when you choose biomass, it has a very interesting carbon footprint, but if the sourcing is not right, it messes up your complete carbon footprint. If you first destroy rainforests to plant sugarcane, then of course your carbon footprint is really negative. So in case of sugarcane, luckily this is not the case. They are far away from rainforest and they are planted on even on soil that has been degraded before, and they can even enrich soil with new sugarcane plantation. Braskem as well have certified sugarcane, so they look at the complete process of how the sugarcane is grown and if it is done in a sustainable way. I have a lot of criteria why indeed bio-based is a good alternative. Again, I'm going to skip those as well because most of those have been mentioned in previous presentation. Now for us, but the bio-based thing was just the first step to take in the process towards a more sustainable packaging. Something we did already for 20 years was to offer consumers the possibility to refill and reuse their bottles, which is a really key issue for us. And we have a refill installation installed now in over more than 1,000 stores. The only, let's say, problem we still face with this kind of system, this system, refill system, is made for smaller stores where the shopkeeper can keep an eye on what's happening, because it can get messy if people start overfilling their bottles and so on. So it's a big issue for us to make this as user-friendly as possible to reuse their bottles. But we're working hard on it. Another thing we did to reduce then the impact of the packaging is the bulk that you see here. This colored box. Instead of making a plastic container, we made it into a cardboard box with a thin plastic bag inside. So the plastic that we use here is really minimum to have 20 liters of detergent inside. We use a few grams of plastic, and then consumers can just reuse their bottles. We're looking at the same principle, because like I said, this system was made for smaller shops. We're looking at the same idea for supermarkets. And of course, if you want to go to supermarkets with a refill idea, there they cannot afford just to spill the whole product on the floor. There's no shopkeeper that can keep an eye on stuff. So in case of supermarkets, we're developing together with a French company a refill station which is fully automated. So you just basically the machine scans your barcode. It knows, okay, this is a washing up liquid lemon. You put the bottle in the machine and everything is filled, and you can take it out. It prints a new barcode, you stick it on, and you go to the cashier. The only issue we have now with this machine is the price, and the question, who's paying for the machine? Is it the retailer or is it the brand? And now we're in discussion with like the biggest retailers, Auchan, especially in Europe. We already did some tests in those retailers, which went really well. Consumer acceptance is really fine. But now the discussion is about who's paying, and is it only Ecover that's in the machine, or do we hire like one machine with all the brands, which should be even a better option. If you just share one machine and then if discuss with P&G, with Unilever, to all share one machine, share the costs, that would be the optimal solution. Unfortunately, currently P&G and Unilever are not really interested in progressing this further, but maybe replenish will be. And then, yeah, two small players can change the world, I think. So that's a kind of a wrap up. The classical way of packaging using petrol, and in the end it goes to landfill. So what the step we took now is, instead of petrol, we use sugarcane as a renewable resource to come to our raw material, and it's entering here in this stage. People can reuse their bottle, and it's up to 20, 50 times they can reuse. If it's used, it can go enter the recycling stream, and hardly anything needs to be incinerated or go to landfill. And even, the next improvement that we're looking at, and a lot of companies are looking into that, and Braskem is looking into that as well, is to use, instead of like the sugarcane, so food crop, is using waste as a resource. And I think, one of the previous speakers showed a really good example of making plastic out of waste, which is a really interesting evolution. So these are, to summarize our last slide, the 10 points that we work really hard on to improve our packaging footprint. So first objective for us is to source our material 100% from waste. And that waste, then I mean bio-waste to make virgin, if you need virgin, or post-consumer recycled if available, which is still a big issue to have access to a good PCR waste stream. And that's indeed a bit the contradictory thing to if you start making packaging for recycle, but you hardly can get recycled material on the market, which is an issue, but it's really improving, and we have now really good sources to use PCR in our product. Then indeed, looking at the transformation of the waste into plastic, you can do that in a very efficient way, or you can do it in a less efficient way. You need to look at the carbon output of that. Sustainable sourcing of the product is really critical. No critically chemicals added, like the terephthalates that you find in rivers. So that's critical to use plastics which are really clean, no chemicals. And then I just want to touch on one point, which links also a little bit to the presentation from Jason, which I think is a really valid point. You should also think about redesigning your product, and not indeed like shipping water over in bottles. It's really a stupid idea. And I think we can, as an industry, there's a lot of things we can do. I think the replenish example is a really good one. But we can even go further, and because why do we make liquids? If you think about the soap we used to have, it's a solid block and it was wrapped in a piece of paper. You can make all cleaning products into solid pearls or whatever. Just wrap them up in a very thin piece of packaging, and offer still the convenience of having separate dosages. So there's a lot of things we can still do as an industry, and I hope we're working on that to improve things, and I hope we can even work together with other partners from the industry.